Breece Hall is one of the most accomplished football players to ever put on an Iowa State jersey. The two-time All-American running back set a new NCAA record, becoming the first player to rush for a touchdown in 24 consecutive games. The Wichita, Kansas native was selected by the New York Jets with the 36th pick in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft. Breece recently connected with the Alumni Association for this Q&A in the latest Iowa Stater magazine. Hey man, congratulations on being drafted. I know it's a big career accomplishment for you. What was that moment like hearing your name called?
It was a blessing, I was a little bummed after day one, just hoping I'll get my name called on day one, but that didn't happen. So I was prepared for my name to be called on day two. So once I heard it was the Jets, and I had already had a relationship with some of the guys who they had already drafted in, I felt like we were going to have the best rookie class and we were going to come in and make an impact. So it was a blessing for sure.
You finish up training camp. You're into the season now. How are things going being in the NFL?
It's been good. I've enjoyed it. Even though I miss being at state all the time. I enjoyed it around here. I love the people. I love the coaches. It's been a good time just adjusting to, it's kind of like learning how to be on your own again. My family's not out here with me. I'm by myself and everything like that. And then adjusting to a new offense, new scheme, new coaches and everything. But it's been a good adjustment so far.
You scored your first touchdown in the NFL. What was that moment like?
It almost felt like it was like a too good to be true moment. I was left wide open coming out of the backfield. So it was an easy little gimme touchdown, and I'm looking forward for more.
Wide open is Hall. Touchdown.
Can you compare it all, like the atmosphere of playing in an NFL game to like a game in the Big 12 at Iowa State at Jack Trice?
Yeah, I think it's a lot different, The fans obviously they're dialed into the game, but I feel like just being in college is different, especially being at state because it's a football state. It's only college football. It's only Iowa and Iowa State, so those fans are like diehard. But playing in New York at MetLife and then going to opposing team stadiums, it's been cool just to be in that atmosphere again. It's been fun.
I bet you see some people with Iowa State gear or some stuff that people representing the Ames, Iowa, right?
Yeah, I still see the Iowa State hats, the 28 jerseys and everything like that. So it's cool just to know I got fans all around.
Yeah, man, we call it Cyclones everywhere at the Alumni Association, that's for sure. What surprised you most when you joined the NFL, when you got drafted, when you went through training camp?
Just how much more detail-oriented the game is. Obviously, I knew I was going to have to adjust to the speed and everything. And, the O-linemen and D-linemen, they're all freaks. They're all much bigger than some guys in college. So those two I kind of knew I was going to have to adjust to, but just knowing how much more detail-oriented I had to be, you can have the most natural talent, but it just comes down to those little things and doing those little things right. And even in college, my coaches always preached to me that if I do the little things right, then I can just let my natural ability take over. So I just always try to dial into that.
What's been the biggest challenge you've ever had to overcome in your life?
I'd say just that whole process of me going to college and being at Iowa State and transitioning onto the NFL, being at Iowa State, I was kind of like the face of the program. It was really me and my quarterback, Brock Purdy. And, everything we did was looked at with a sharp eye. Everybody knew where we were. Everybody knew what we looked like. So, you always had to be on your P's and Q's and everything. You couldn't always have the fun and do all the stuff that everybody else was doing. And then also just as I became bigger, just being in the Heisman race and having all the notoriety and everything like that, you get those expectations and you feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And then you got new people trying to come into your life and just that whole experience. And then that transition of going to the NFL was kind of easier than what I had in college, just being in such a bigger spot, being in Jersey, New York. It's people don't only care about football, but while I was in Iowa, people only care about Iowa and Iowa State.
Do you kind of feel like you even had maybe a little chip on your shoulder from when you were even younger in high school?
Yeah, for sure. I always felt like, and I always knew I was a little different from the other guys I played sports with. I was always just a little better than everybody naturally. And my coaches just told me, as long as I work my butt off, and I could do anything I want with it. So after my sophomore year, my head football coach, he pulled me into his office for an exit meeting and just told me, you can be the next Barry Sanders to come out of Wichita. And he just told me to put my head down and keep working. And so I put my head down, I worked, had a big junior season, and that's when I started getting all my offers.
I remember a quote from you leading up to the draft when you said, I'm the best running back in this draft.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people sense the new kind of like sense of confidence from you.
Yeah, I felt like just through that whole draft process, I felt like there shouldn't have been a question about me being the number one running back. Because over those last 2 years, nobody was able to do what I did. Nobody was as consistent as I was. And I felt like I just put everything on film. So I kind of felt like it was almost a little bit of disrespect there, but also just knowing that, I have to respect those other guys because those other guys are very good as well. But just knowing where I stood and knowing what I could do. And then after the combine, I felt like I really stamped it. So then I felt like there was no question. Like I went out there under all the lights, all the pressure, and showed everybody that I am who I say I was. And so that really was what got my confidence up there. Just that whole process, just being in college, just knowing what I could do and knowing who I was.
When things get really tough for Breece Hall, where do you kind of draw your strength from? Where do you pull from?
I feel like for me, it's just because I'm self-motivated. And that's stemmed from just me being young. I've always wanted to be the best. And when stuff gets hard, I just talk to myself and tell myself, I talk to myself and just say, do you want to be great? So if I'm tired, if I'm hurting or anything like that, I just ask myself if I want to be great. And while I've been here, even when I was in college, Campbell just always talked about not only doing it for yourself, but doing it for your teammates too, because they're busting their butts as well. And then getting to the Jets, Coach Sala always talks about having an extra 60%. So he says no matter how tired you are, you always have 60% more. So I always think about that as well.
How do you define success in your life and your career, what you do?
That's a good question. Success, for me, to a certain extent, I am goal oriented, but also I find success is just being internally happy with what I'm doing and where I'm at. So, like I said, I always want to be the best at what I do, but ultimately, if I'm happy and I'm a big family person, so if I'm happy and I know if I'm good, if my family's good, because I'm the type of person, if my family's good, then I'm always going to be good regardless of the situation. So, yeah, that's what I would say success means to me.
So, I mean, when you think back to your time at Iowa State too, and now that you've made it, into the NFL, what legacy do you hope you can leave behind when this is all said and done?
Well, for kids back home, just kids in Kansas, just knowing that for them, just knowing that if they do work their butts off, if they're willing to do things that other kids aren't doing behind the scenes, that they can go wherever they want. They can do whatever they want with their sport or go to college or whatever the case may be. I always have wanted to be a big impact back home, and I know that a lot of kids look up to me back home. So I want to have a big legacy back home. And then at Iowa State, I just always wanted to be that guy that did everything right. I'm a guy that showed love to the community. That's why the community loves me back. So I just wanted to be one of those guys who was willing to do anything for anybody, and one of those guys who did everything the right way. And then professionally, I feel like I just kind of want to let that write its own story. There's nothing I really want to put out there right now.
Yeah, you got to come back to a game, I know, earlier this season. What was that? What was that like to get that reception from the crowd?
It was crazy. It was a blessing. I almost enjoyed watching the game more than I enjoyed playing in the game, because you see those young guys who were working their tails off as freshmen but not playing, and then they finally get their shot. And to see those guys finally getting their shot and balling out, it was so fun. And then being there, hanging out with them after the game, supporting them, and just being able to come back and show them love and do a nice deed for them. It was fun for sure.
What does being an Iowa Stater, being a Cyclone, mean to you?
I always speak as being a Cyclone from football terms, because while I came there, Coach Campbell, during the recruiting process, he told me, do you want to come here to be someone, or do you want to come here to do something? And so I felt like me coming to Iowa State just showed that a Cyclone could be someone who just never gives up, somebody who doesn't have to have all the means, but somebody who's willing to get the job done, doing it any way they can. And one thing me and Coach Campbell always said was that we have a 5-star culture. So that culture is big on, just being there for each other, being a family, never backing down, and just showing up every day and doing your part in the work.
How did that 5-star culture motto, that saying, come about? And I think that was something that you or Coach Campbell may have said, kind of caught on. Where did that come from?
Really just being at Iowa State, and me just being one of the higher recruited guys. Coach Campbell always said when we're playing the Oklahomas and the Texases and all those type of schools, there's going to be 5-star players versus 5-star culture. And that 5-star culture has to do with us not having the best players, but us willing to fight, willing to do the things that the other teams weren't willing to do in order to win the game. And versus those 5-star players who are the kids that all the schools wanted, who were able to go wherever they wanted. And when kids come to Iowa State, they're not the kids with all the offers and all the glitz and glamour. They're the kids that, we're under recruited, and they have to, get it out the mud. I'd say, we have to grind a different way because we're not always on the same pedestal as everybody else.
Yeah. Well, hey, Breece, congratulations on making it to the NFL and already a big start to your career. Iowa State, Cyclones everywhere. Super proud of you. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.